Good evening and good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are around the planet today. Welcome to September's Foundry session from a lovely, gorgeous autumn evening in London. It's not raining, it's good news for us. Tonight we've got a really cool session with the guys from Finnish TV. The topic tonight is being independent. The guys set up their studio in 2003. Lots and lots and lots to talk about how they've evolved over the years from 2 people to now a team of, help me, 24. So they're available for questions using the hashtag TF sessions. I'll be asking them on your behalf, so if you've got some questions for the guys or some comments or anything you want to ask, please ask and interact using that hashtag. So tonight we are joined by co-founders Justine and Jason. We're also joined by the wondrous Kaylee, who's got an amazing story at Finnish TV, starting as a runner. She'll be able to tell you more, runner, and now she's like practically compositing wizard there at Finnish. And we're also joined by Juan and Courtney from the Foundry. So I am going to zip it and let these guys get on with it. So interact again, hashtag TF sessions. I'll see you in a little bit. For you.
Cool. So, hello guys.
Hi. Hello.
So I think to start, shall we start with you guys on who you are and how you started this?
Hi, yeah, I'm Justine. I'm one of the co-founders, have you heard? I came into post-production following on from production, working at a company called Complete and then Soho 601. I got made redundant from there and I was freelancing, and I actually met Jason at the pub in Soho, and
the pub in Soho.
The pub.
Right. Yeah. The pub Soho.
The pub in Soho. Yeah, and then well, you'll hear, we ended up starting up Finnish together, 2003.
Cool. I'll pick up from there, shall I? So we met at the pub.
Jason.
And I'm Jason. We set up Finnish 13 years ago. And from the pub, it turned out that we were both flame ops, and I needed some assist work done on one of the jobs that I was working at the mill at the time. And I asked Justine if she could come in and help out, and we got on quite well. And over a period of time, it became clear to me that I wanted a little bit more freedom in what I was doing, and maybe a little bit more control over the work as well. And so I spoke to Justine about helping me set up this company while I was still working at the mill. It was only a few months or something, wasn't it, really? And thankfully she agreed. So I carried on working at the mill. She started getting the ball rolling with incorporating a company, getting accountants on board, and looking at places to rent. And that was it, really. I kind of resigned. And then 2 months later, by hook or by crook, we did our first job. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
I'm Kaylee, and I started at Finnish 5 years ago as a runner, and then I moved into transfer, and now I use Nuke and Nuke Studio just recently as well.
Cool.
Alright, well with that said, let's have a look at your showreel, just to get a bit of better idea of what it is you guys do.
Cool. So that's from obviously your latest showreel, and obviously from 12 years. But shall we start at the beginning?
Yes.
Right. Back to the early
Walk
days.
down memory lane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did,
So
yeah,
that
how
was
did
it.
that-
Right,
how did
yeah.
that start? So is so you already said how you started actually, and you left the mill and you got the company up and running. Okay.
Yeah, we set up very minimally at first. There's an image following this that shows it. That's a slightly later stage, but the very early stage was very, very minimal.
Right.
And yeah, there we go. Warts and all.
That's how we used to do it.
And yeah, it was a lot of fun, really fun days. You know, it was Jason, myself, Paul, graphic designer, and then I think we had a runner. You know, after a few weeks or something like that. So it was just a very small team.
Sure.
And you know, night before the first job, day before we were up at IKEA getting sofas, and it was all kind of, it all happened very quickly, and we got it up and running really quickly.
It's a lot of the stuff is actually from home. I just noticed the speakers there I've had for 20 years.
Yeah.
They're my old. Yeah, I think we've still got them. Actually. I think we're still using them.
So we did that, and then
it was
I
quite a
think-
contrast from
Where you
go
come
from
Yeah.
from a company like the Mill
Yeah.
that was it was extremely client facing.
Mhm.
You know, it had to be that way. It was
Sure.
the biggest company around, and to go from that having clients, my personal clients that. You know, there's always a wariness when you start a company up, when you set something up that's different from the company that you've been at, where everyone's used to seeing you. That if you change it too much, then is that going to put people off?
Yeah.
And you know, expectations from agencies and so on and so forth. But you know, I spoke to a lot of the people that I work with, and you know, first and foremost, their encouragement to me was, if the work's going to be the same, then why would I be worried about what it looks like, or you know, as long as the equipment works, as long as you can deliver a job.
Sure.
Which you know spoke volumes to us, that it was all about the job, the creativity of the job, not about
the output, what you see on screen.
not about the
basically,
you know, the periphery, the stuff that's superfluous to actually delivering a job at the end of the day.
So making that jump, a lot of it was based on the fact that you had the faith in your clients, or you had a customer base.
I had a long working relationship
Sure.
with them, and you know, thankfully, quite a few of them
Yeah.
came across, and you know, I have to say, probably supported us
Right. Brilliant.
in initially. I mean, it was a big outlay for us
Yeah.
at the time
Mhm.
to spend to get so much money and then put it all into the faith of
Yeah.
essentially being able to get more work
Right,
to
okay.
pay off the equipment.
And is this self-funded or? is it-
Yeah.
pretty
Basically,
much.
it was.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, it's a risk at the time.
Yeah.
Maybe the risks are different nowadays
Mhm.
to the way they were then, but a risk nevertheless.
Yeah.
And I guess having the faith that you are going to be getting some work from your clients,
Yeah.
and actually, you know, as I said, you get a job, you do the job, you deliver it, you get paid for doing the job, and then you kind of like high five, don't you?
Yeah,
Really,
yeah.
and it's like, wow, that
Yeah,
works.
Step one.
You know, and
Rinse and
it's
repeat, yeah.
Yeah.
it's not like it,
Yeah.
you know, it's not an easy thing,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have to be as hard as you think it is. You know,
Right,
you're
okay.
working for a company, you're an employee, and you think all this other stuff is going on, and sure, it does do,
Mhm.
but producing the core product
Yeah.
of what you do,
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be that. You can do it quite simply, as
Okay.
you know, as
Yeah.
the slide shows. It's
Mm.
it's us, everything on a desk,
Okay.
and very lo-fi, and it works.
And is the bulk of the work going through you, or are you also are you assisting, or you flame artists at the same time? How's the work getting
Yeah.
broken down?
I think in the very early days, it was a lot of multitasking,
Sure.
which, there still is, to be honest, but it's different multitasking now. But yeah, I was, very much coming through from flame assisting, wanting to do flame, and I was doing bits of that, but I was also, learning about producing a job, having to sort of quote jobs, invoice jobs.
That is one
and
thing,
then
actually,
starting up a sort of the business side of it, and obviously as you start getting some flow of work coming in, it did become quite hard to do both. So I did kind of go more towards the production.
Right.
I remember
which
sitting
I
down
really
and we had a
enjoyed.
chat, didn't we, about it? And it's like, look, you can either push yourself back into being an op full time, and we can get a producer, or you can actually steer yourself that way. And it was it was one of those simple decisions that we just sat down and talked about. And I think you took some time to think about it, didn't you? And just went, right, okay, I'm going to concentrate on that.
Yeah.
Because we had the creative side of it covered.
Okay.
And you took up the mantle of producing and then running the company. Which
Sure.
if you come from one background and one discipline.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean to say you're any good at doing something else.
Of course, yeah.
So there was a lot of learning as we were going along,
Yeah.
and thankfully Justine
Yeah.
filled those shoes quite adequately.
Brilliant.
Which is good.
Yeah, it was really good. And as we've said, we started to get a lot of repeat work, so it became.
It became about the quality of the
it-
work and the personal service
Right.
that you could deliver.
Just really good to
Really.
work with clients you like and get along with.
Cool. So
Yeah.
talking about clients,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm guessing so you had a good relationship with a lot of these directors that would come in and bring projects to you that you were able to work from the start to.
Yeah.
They involve you from the very beginning. And I think that makes it even more satisfying when you see the end product, or you're involved in the end product. But yeah, so this
This was
one
one
we're
that
gonna show.
I had worked with Malcolm a few times before and got on very well with him, and he brought this job to us to have a look at. It was just in treatment stage, and we were talking about camera angles, how best to shoot. There's a specific, you'll see it's all one camera take. So there was lots of talk about how to realise the job, whether you where you position your camera, whether you use edits and all that kind of thing.
Sure.
And I suppose this was one of the first jobs that we did, and probably to the day is still one of the most satisfying jobs, because you were very integral to the job right from the beginning.
Right.
And it was greatly appreciated by Malcolm and
Brilliant.
Therapy and that kind of thing.
Okay, let's take a look at the shot, the piece. Let's press play.
It was kind of deceptively simple.
Yeah.
It looks deceptively simple.
Right.
A man walks to the top of the stairs, has a seizure, falls down the stairs and gets up. And, obviously there are 1,000,001 ways to shoot it, but Malcolm chose to do it in a very controlled, simple, slow motion control move.
Right.
And, it was all built on a stage, so it wasn't location at all. Johnny Green was the production designer on it, and so from inception of the job, supervising the job, and there was a lot of hard graft that went into the job.
Sure, right,
There was a lot of clean-up work and a lot of paint work that you can't really do. There's still not really that many features that can help you with some things. Sometimes you just have to get into a shot and paint a lot, and ops out there will understand that. That there's no easy way around something sometimes.
And this is going through the main hero suite, and you're the main lead on this.
Yeah, very much so. I think we had some help from. Actually, at the time there was another company that set up around about a similar time to us, Absolute, and we got on quite well. Dave Smith, that owns Absolute, was at the mill at the same time, and we kind of had this thing where we'd help each other out. We were two small companies surrounded by large companies, and we would help each other out. In fact, I think we ran a wire across the roofs between the companies that I'm sure the companies in between didn't really know about that. But we did actually get up there and physically run a wire between us. Yeah. But I think a great op, Phil, was working with Dave, and is still with Dave at the moment, and he came over and helped out a little bit on some of the mat work and that kind of thing he had to do on it.
Well, let's have a look at the breakdowns, and you can talk us through how you achieved the shot.
Well, I mean, as you can see, it was a motion control job. Yeah. A few different takes. The actor falls into a crash mat. Right. The stuntman was timed out to fall down in a very similar way to our hero actor. Okay. He actually rolls down the steps, and at the end, we had to obviously get back to our main actor because he was the one that put his head up. So we then did some morph transitions between them. In fact, I think there's about 3 or 4 morphs in between. There's lots of separate little morphs, and there's one big morph at the end. Okay. Where the stuntman.
Right. So it's just traditional hardcore comping, just like
it was.
Paintwork.
I mean, I'm not sure you couldn't use projection for the morphing, not with the budgetary constraints we had at the time. I mean, you ultimately you could probably pretty much do anything you want. Yeah. But there was a minimal budget for it. It was obviously the COI, and it had to look seamless, and I think the only way that you could do it was old school techniques of cutting and pasting, painting things out, tidying things up, pulling them around, and putting it together that way, really.
And what about the time frame that you had to complete this job in? Was it a particularly tight turnaround?
Well, I mean, I can't remember. I think we had a few weeks to do it. Okay. Really. Yeah. But again, it looks simple, but even to this day, it probably was one of the hardest jobs that that I did anyway. Yeah. Okay. Just because it had to be seamless. You couldn't, it was all in slow motion, so you can't hide things within edits. Exactly. You can't hide things within movement. Yeah. But like most things, the harder graft you put into it,
the more rewarding.
Yeah, you get a lot of reward out of it at the end of the day, and it's still one of my favourite jobs that we did. Good. Anyway, but that was a long time ago now. That was maybe 11 years ago, maybe something. Yeah, it was one of the first ones, so that was a long time ago.
All right. So with that said, we can step through a couple of these other projects that you've done since. So you're going to BMW here. Yeah. You got this Ford Ice.
I've had a long-standing relationship with Daniel. In fact, Daniel was the director that bought our very first job. Okay. The day that we opened up with sofas still in cellophane and things like that. Daniel, we did a Lloyd's job for Daniel, and I mean he was a big supporter of us. Cool. And we went on, continue. We still work with him now. And so,
okay. And that's his company, Knucklehead.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
So at this point, you've been going through the beginning and getting the company up, the whole thing. Yeah. And at that point, what happened?
Yeah, what happened next? Well, I think after a few years, we, had maintained relationships and sort of carried on getting work, which was always good, and had started to employ more people. I think by that point we actually had taken on another floor in the building we were in and set up another flame suite. I think we had a 3D department as well by then. I think we were struggling a little bit with trying to convince some directors or agencies that we were...
It was agencies more than directors.
Yeah, that we could sort of take on a massive job, a big job. Which is tricky because sometimes you build a relationship with a director and they win a big job, and then all of a sudden the agency's like, oh no. So
they have built-in kind of I wouldn't say deals, but they certainly have affiliations with, or a preference, maybe should we say, to work with a larger company, because it gives them a sense of security, whether that's right or not. Personally, I don't think it is right, but they feel like they're in safer hands because they're bigger hands. Okay. And so I guess this was one of those jobs that we got awarded, and then I suppose the agency were fine, weren't they, doing with us? But it turned into a much bigger beast as we went along with it.
So that's quite interesting. How the agency did change their mind, or was flexible to go with you guys.
I think that was being sold. We had various meetings with them.
Yeah.
And I think they felt that there was a confidence with what we were doing. Yeah. And I had a standing relationship with Johnny Green and Gary, the directors of the film, and I think they were fully supportive of us. And it takes that kind of confidence to win work, I think, a lot nowadays.
All right.
And and so it started out as one thing, then grew into a bigger thing, and then ended up, instead of just one 60-second film, it ended up being like a 2-minute something film with 6 or 8
some other
minute long bits and bobs.
I mean, I think that job alone was about 100 VFX shots. I mean, it was quite a big job. So.
Yeah, let's take a look at the shot.
Funny looking at old work, looking back old work again.
That was beautiful. really well. It's highly stylized and very creative.
I mean, I think that came down to Gary, who had a very strong Japanese manga-y kind of sense to what he wanted within it.
You could feel that throughout all the shots.
Yeah, I mean, he went on. He's just shot Dracula Untold, the big film. But highly stylized. I mean, there was ever such a lot of work to do in that, and I think we ended up getting. Did we have 4 or 5 nukes working on that to assist others at the time?
Yeah. Right. So we had to we had to sort of upscale for that. I think upscale. I think we just squeezed in as many people as we could in the space we had.
And that was.
I mean, there was just
That was literally as we were about to move offices as well.
Right. Yeah.
So we'd been in our space for 6 years or something, and we were about to move, and we were doing probably the biggest job that we'd done so far.
Right.
Yeah, and I think potentially, with jobs often dates move. I mean, maybe some dates had moved, and so our move date was originally supposed to be clear of delivery of this job. And
so how did you manage that?
Quite work out.
Yeah,
we kind of did.
Yeah.
We kind of did.
We luckily there was a bank holiday weekend.
Right.
Towards the end of this job, and we said to the client, look, we're six 6 p.m. Friday, pens down, we're moving this weekend. So we had the premises, a lot of prep work had been done prior to moving in, of course. And it was like the team were amazing, literally pens down on the Adidas job, packing boxes on a Friday night and sort of...
Moved over the weekend, didn't we?
Yeah, a little kind of schedule of help us over the weekend, and we were in there, and Tuesday morning the client was
knocking on the door saying, can I come back? Literally he was saying, please can I come back in? I mean, it wasn't, it was, he had other work that he needed to finish up, and it was like, look, please can I come in and finish up this other stuff?
It was
and so there were boxes, he was sitting there in the suite and there was boxes being moved around, and I think at one point we actually had the machine sitting next to it still, old style. We had the machine sitting next to the actual monitors because we just didn't have time to patch it in or anything. So
and the whole team was able to pitch in and I was so
chuffed that everyone just got on board, because I think Kaylee had just started.
I started day one of that job, I think, as a runner.
Brilliant.
And so she was helping. You were helping me with the move, preparing the move. No one else in the company was interested, and I was sort of freaking out, thinking this is all going to go wrong. But everyone just was like, "No, I'm on board," and I was really pleasantly surprised. And
it was good. That's having a good team of people.
Exactly.
A good small team of people around you that you can rely on when you need to.
No, it sounds like a testament to the company culture there. So yes, it's good that there's those kind of moments there. Let's step into some of these breakdowns, just to kind of have a look at, and maybe you could tell us what work was done on Nuke versus.
It was just creating 3D backgrounds. There was a lot of 3D, a lot of projected kind of paintings. Again, this is Gary, the director, did quite a lot of the actual paintings himself.
Right.
And it was projecting those, putting them in, 3D crowds, 3D stadiums, that kind of stuff. I mean, it was good. It was just a lot of varied stuff in this. There was a lot of matte work, a lot of, it was all CG stuff and kind of thing. But it was...
So all the Nuke stations would be kind of assisting, preparing mats and preparing footage that would be mainly comped in the Hero Suite.
I suppose we were using Nuke essentially as an assist on that. I think they ended up doing some comping on some. We agreed to do the initial job, as I said, but then there was a whole load of online films that they needed putting together, and I think the company that they had used to start doing the online films basically was swamped, and that they couldn't keep up with the amount of changes, the amount of work, and it was just their infrastructure. So we ended up taking quite a lot of that online stuff and partly helping them out, but partly it was more the agency just saying, look, we're sinking here, can we have some help?
Right.
And that was where basically the Nuke stations helped us out quite a lot, because the Hero stations were still doing the main ad,
the regular,
and as well as assisting with mats and helping out in the online stuff. They actually ended up putting together.
I think they did end up comping a lot of those online films as well.
So would you say this project was a big turning point in the company, kind of making that leap from small to medium?
I think it was.
I suppose so.
I think definitely in that it proved, and again, for what we did in 2003, there wasn't a huge precedent for that type of company around at the time. So to firstly have done that and be working successfully for a few years, and then to do a big job like this.
There was only
done, really.
There was only maybe
team.
4 or 5 people working on that job, on the main principal job. And you compare that to some of the other ads that were out at the time, but they might have had 40, 50 artists working on it. And so for us, it proved that you could, and to the agency, I suppose, it proved that you can do large, big scale, international jobs with a core group of people. And you don't need. And then we spent some time talking about how big do we want the company to be, and whether you want the company to grow to the size that it starts dictating the work that you have to do.
Right. Okay.
To you obviously you scale up. You have a bigger company. You have more people.
Yep.
You have a larger payroll. Your just the whole of your running costs just exponentially grow. And I think our philosophy was always about trying to hold on to the company, so we are essentially in control of the company rather than the company controlling what we do.
Right, I see.
And it was a very important thing, and it, to this day we could be quite a lot bigger if we wanted to.
Right.
And we do hold back, I think, sometimes.
Okay.
And
that's a conscious decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
Based on what it is
we're fully in
guys.
control of the company.
Yeah.
We own the whole company,
Really,
and it's it's a great place to work. We've had, as I say, there's 20 something of us there at the moment, and we've had very few people in the 12 years leave the company.
Right.
So everyone that comes from, and they're generally juniors, runners that work their way up within the company.
Okay.
You get the best out of the people by nurturing juniors. You kind of inbuild a sense of loyalty as well, and like when you've got to move offices, everyone mucks in, so you save on removal costs as well.
So that's a part of the company culture as well, then, kind of nurturing and growth.
Very much so.
Yeah.
I mean, starting at the mill, the only way to move up through the larger companies is to absolutely get stuck in and kind of raise your head above everyone else's that are at that level. So you're the one that gets noticed.
Yeah.
So when a job opportunity comes up, they've already got you in their mind. So maybe if you're starting as a runner and the next way is to get into transfer, or the easiest step is to get into transfer while you're running, you start hanging around transfer and learn a little bit about that. And then before you know it, it's suddenly someone's called in sick for the day and it's like, oh, could you help us out on this?
Yeah.
And you become more useful.
Exactly, yeah.
And more cost effective maybe to be in transfer than you are a runner.
Right.
And then you generally just step your way up. And that's, that's probably the best way to move up through this industry is to throw yourself into the job of being a great runner and excel at looking to move on to the next step.
Yeah, and seeing the opportunities when they arise, I suppose. Yeah. Okay, so
that's where you finish the job.
Yeah,
we
it's
grew
quite
up.
different.
We
It's in
grew
colour
up,
as well, that one, isn't it?
We moved up to colour film, digital.
This is, I suppose, this is us having to grow up a little bit.
Yeah,
you're in a small, essentially a studio area, and I think we had one suite in there and then another suite upstairs, but then you started to have clients that were crossing over, and it became imperative for us to actually become a little bit more responsible.
Sure.
Kind of
separate areas for you.
Separate areas, but it's still far more relaxed than a lot of other companies that, well, certainly that I've been in anyway. And and then I suppose 3 or 4 years later, we set up a grading department.
Okay, and that was a new venture for you guys that you'd not kind of had you considered it prior, or was it something the opportunity came up? How did this come about?
I think I know when our Fee, our head of production, joined, she was very keen that one day we would have grading because it is.
You can add a more.
You can subcontract it out, but obviously it's nicer to have it in house.
Okay.
And
I think as the industry changed a little bit and budgets got a little bit tighter.
Right.
I think it became a very easy way for producers to say, look, we're going to keep it all in house. We're going to get we get a deal on the grade, we get a deal on the online, however it was.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like it was one of the things that was dictating where jobs were going to be done.
Okay. And
it was quite a strong factor.
Right.
That essentially, the grade became, and still is now, it's become a very important thing within the process. Whereas I think, maybe when we first started out, the focus was a little bit more on the online.
Okay.
And now it seems to have definitely shifted that grading is a major pull.
Okay. So then how did
yeah,
how was you able to do this then? I mean, did you have to find a talent that was particularly going to help?
Yeah, I mean,
transition?
I'd been talking to Paul Harrison, one of our graders.
Okay.
I'd known him since maybe 16 years ago or something.
Right.
He was at the mill, I was at the mill.
Okay.
And I suppose we were both cutting our teeth, really. I left and met Justine in the pub.
Mm-hmm.
And then
we can
yeah.
We're going to go to this pub afterwards.
Yeah. You never know what might happen in this pub. I'd always sort of like kept in contact with Paul, and we saw each other out on a few nights, and I think by this time he'd moved to work at MPC, and I don't think he was feeling it round there. I think it maybe became a different thing than what he expected it to be.
I think he really wanted to run his own department as well, and I
mean he's quite industrious, isn't he? And
I think as people progress within companies, they sometimes hit a ceiling of possibility where they are, and for him, he's quite entrepreneurial in spirit, so he wanted to sort of set it up and run his own thing, and he's been very instrumental in the creation of Baselight. I mean, he's
a very good relationship with film, right?
And he's helped them quite a lot, and so he's been quite an early champion of digital grading. So he's great technician, and he's a great artist as well. So and he's a really lovely guy. So the key thing is dynamics in any company, and we all got along really well. And it was a no-brainer basically. Then we got we had the space, so
I mean that was part of moving, wasn't it? We needed some space, and it was always in the back of our minds that we're going to want to expand out to be able to offer a fuller service to our clientele, really. And so,
and I'm guessing
it's only a matter of time.
The startup or the investment to expand into the grading was quite a bit of a leap as well, I'm guessing. Was the jobs were the jobs able to kind of make this happen? Was that a backup, like to kind of say actually we was going to be able to cover this with a certain amount of jobs? I
think the way Justine and I have always run the company is that you don't overspend. You always try and not save up for a rainy day, but we certainly had a pot that we were putting into to know that we were going to expand out at a certain point in time. So we'd been quite diligent and saved enough money that again we didn't need to go to finance. So we kept it all in-house.
But I mean, I think just the nature of grading, it does bring in the nice thing as well, I think, is it brought in a different type of job than if you're basically VFX and CGI. It pulls in just grades and sort of simpler jobs, if you like, that aren't really VFX heavy jobs. So and it also has brought in a lot of music videos to the company, which it's sometimes a labour of love with a music video, but it's fun, and if you're into music like a lot of us are, it's just a really nice thing to work on.
All right.
Good training ground as well for junior ops on the VFX side as well. So it's one of them.
Generally
there.
you cut your teeth, don't you? And we certainly did growing up.
Right.
Well, I certainly did doing. In fact, my first. I suppose my break would have been doing a promo at the mill that was to work over the weekend, to work extremely long hours. That at the time, I put myself forward to do it, and it was a promo for U2, and it worked out great. And I had it with the actual director was Jake Scott, Ridley Scott's son. Right. At the time, Ridley was very much involved with the mill, and on the Monday we had Ridley phoning up thanking us for doing it. And that was that was the kind of job that you show the enthusiasm for the work, and hopefully that's mixed with a bit of ability.
Yeah.
And the sky's the limit, really.
Sure. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. So I mean, so now that you've got the grading suite in the facility in your company now, you're doing more projects with that are more heavily grading focused. This is all in house, yeah.
Oh yeah. And there was quite a lot of tricky grading, as I'm sure Paul will be testament to, but he's not here, so on his behalf, he really had to graft to get this to where it is now. And
I remember this music. It's a very beautiful music video, and a lot of the extractions are just well done. And
it would actually be nicer for us if you could just see a split screen all the way through it, and so everyone sees a split screen, so you see where you started and where you ended it up.
So now we start going into these jobs here.
This was us just developing crowd replication and taking on, I suppose, bigger, better jobs.
Right.
And starting to use Nuke a little bit more.
Yeah. Okay. And is this when you start?
I think I started doing maths around this time. Yep, for this job.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you find it? How did you find it getting into Nuke from making that transition from runner to
transfer?
I went to transfer, and then when I was at transfer, because I was stationed at a computer, I could spend some time training on Nuke and learning that. And I came from university from an After Effects side, so the hardest part was just going from a layer-based timeline to a node-based program.
And what kind of encouraged that move? Like, why would you? What was the decision making behind that?
I think a lot of the 3D ops actually were suggesting that I tried Nuke, and Jason was pushing me in that direction. And it was just, as I said, it was easier to get onto the machine. So
I think if you're training, I suppose if you're training to get on a bit of kit, you need kit time to learn how to use it.
Yeah.
And if you have maybe your hero suites are very expensive suites that you need to keep driving work through all the time to make them, pay for themselves, make them economical. It's hard to get that time unless you're willing to, start working at 10 o'clock at night after your shift, or come in really early in the morning. It's just hard. It's feasible, but it's hard. And essentially, whether you're the skills between working on, say, a flame or something like that, or working on a Nuke, they're essentially exactly the same skills. You can just transfer them from one. It's just the actual workings of the machine. So when you have something like Nuke that can essentially produce work that's easily comparable to the outputs of flame, then it's like, well, why don't you learn on Nuke that you can work on, because there's a spare license there and the other machines, or you might have 3 or 4 Nuke licenses compared to, well, let's face it, one Nuke license or one system is maybe 1/10 of the price. So you're just going to have a lot more chance to get on the machine, to learn your skills. And it just seemed a logical thing for Kaylee and for all our other juniors to come in. If they want to go that way, that's the way we're trying to push them at the moment a little bit, just so that they can cut their teeth, learn their skills. And then if they want to transfer over, if they think that that's the right thing to do, then great. But if not, then they stick with what they know.
All right, good.
Makes sense. So that's another job.
These are just just various VFX jobs, I suppose, aren't they? That you probably worked on, and
okay.
And there was this Raw Blood promo.
Raw Blood. So this is another music video that's been completed recently.
Yeah.
Just won an award for colour grading at Kinsale. To drop in
Julian Baird.
Julian Baird.
Oh yeah. No, seriously, he's Paul's protege and is an amazing grader. And he just picked up best colorist at Kinsale, which is quite nice.
That's great.
Yeah, Kaylee, you did some Nuke on this.
Yeah,
as well. So it was a mixture of different techniques. I think matte paintings and
clean up work.
A lot of clean up work.
Cool.
So.
And I mean, are you using Nuke full time at this point? Is that pretty much your main
I
role?
would have moved into Nuke full time from transfer at this point.
Yeah, good. And it's another music video. I mean, what are the challenges of doing music video? I mean, obviously you said it's good for like as a training ground, but outside of that, as a company, what do you guys get out of that?
I think it's a way of building relationships,
right,
with production companies, with directors. Usually these things, as we said, is a labour of love, and so there is that sense that if you're all going to put in a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of hard graft into these things, that that builds some kind of sense of alliance between you all. And for production companies that have their directors, their junior or any directors out there, pumping away at the promos. It's great for them, and to have people all coming together working on stuff. You can build good relationships with companies and directors. And David loves doing promos. He does commercials as well, so we work on his commercial stuff. We work on his promo stuff. And a lot of the best directors out there, they love doing promos as well, because there's that sense of artistic freedom that they have on it. But if they're going to put all their commercial work through a VFX house, then there needs to be a certain kind of payback as well. And for them, it's like, well, I'm going to put a promo through. I know there's no money to do it, or very little, but can you help me out? This is my creative outlet, maybe. And it's a very kind of symbiotic relationship. You scratch mine, I'll scratch yours, kind of thing.
Sure. Okay, cool.
So by this point, you have gone through all this. You have gone through Runner to do Roto for the Flames and for the main stuff. And now
and then Nuke Studio came out.
Studio came around, and you're leading that.
You did
that one.
So this was the first job that we ran through Nuke Studio, and it was quite a big step, because the producers, for the producers to allow us to use it, I think, just for a confidence thing.
It was a confidence thing, and also a budgetary thing. I mean, we have to be responsible business people, as and budgets are certainly reducing, or they've been reducing ever since there was the financial recession, and everyone tightened their belts. Budgets particularly, and Post being at the end of the chain, I think suffered at least as much as most other people, and everyone still demands the same level of work, the same quality of work. And you have to weigh it up, really. You go, well, look, do you try and put this through a machine that you have to bill a certain amount of time to make it economical, or do you find other alternative ways that you can still produce the same product, but maybe getting from A to B is slightly different? You're not expecting the client to attend so much. And I think producers are accepting of the fact now that because budgets have changed quite considerably, they are accepting of the fact that you might not be able to come in and sit and eat sushi. Not that really happens so much anymore. It doesn't really happen quite like that, but you get the picture. That, people, and I think creatives and generally people are far more accepting of not worrying so much about how a job gets done, as long as they have the confidence in you to deliver the job at the end of the day. And for us, Nuke Studio is a very good way of doing that. Your costs are down, but you can still produce a great job if you have clients sitting behind you, which you do sometimes. Kaylee might do sometimes. It's a slightly different way of working. But as machines get quicker, as the software gets enhanced, that it is more interactive. Then I can't see why you would set a company up with expensive software nowadays. I think you would, you'd have to be mad to spend a huge amount of money to have one machine running. Whereas you could have 3 or 4 of them running.
I think this was a nice one. This was a nice one. This particular job was was perfect for us to actually test out the viability of it, and just from a production line point of view, because of the sort of the budget and the nature of it, it was it was a good test one, wasn't it, for Nuke Studio? So. And
what kind of challenges did you have, Katie?
It was
keep the plants away.
A lot of rod removal for the shoes, and just I think because the comping side of it was the same as I'd been doing before in Nuke, but the biggest challenge was the workflow, because I hadn't set anything up before, and so I probably wouldn't do it like that again, and learned a lot from that.
But you're
going to learn on the job.
That's the way you learn.
Yeah, exactly. And we've recently conformed a job, a big CGI heavy job in it in Nuke Studio, and the workflow, I've done that a lot better, and we've dished out all of the plates to 3D and set up the pre-comps for them.
Okay.
We're using the baseline nodes as well.
All right.
With
so
that, so
is that the BLG workflow, the inside of Nuke, using BLG? BLG. Excellent. Okay. So, and the benefit of that is not having to do that round trip back through the baseline to.
We can. So we were doing the cleanup on the technical plates, but when they put the CGI into the shot, they can then just put the baseline node, run the baseline node through it, and show the client the graded shot.
Cool.
As opposed to running it back through the baseline, which would take more time.
Brilliant. All right, well, let's take
a look at it.
Yeah, let's take a look at this, the commercial.
Back to school? That's so not cool.
Wrong, mister. Let me hear you say yeah! You'll be like, sup, school. You're gonna smash it at sports. And teach maths a lesson.
And you're gonna learn history.
Nah, you're gonna make history! Hey, Carly, sounds like clarinet ain't your thing.
Well, listen up.
Ditch that giant flute. You're gonna learn drums.
What would you like on your sandwiches, love? More bread.
Oh, yeah, drums. Make it stop.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah,
so
all right.
That was an interesting one.
Yeah.
For the first one.
Yeah. No, so I mean, it's so you think the Nuke Studio now has helped you like kind of manage projects, or is it how comfortable do you feel in Nuke Studio at the moment?
Yeah, getting there.
Yeah.
More and more. The more we do, the more comfortable I feel.
Right.
But it's certainly, before I could just assist, and now I can conform jobs and.
Right.
It might be the more comfortable that Kaylee feels, but I'm starting to feel a bit more uncomfortable because I think that jobs will end up staying down there. And I'm going to be like,
well, this
where's my shot? And it's like, oh, it's done.
Kaylee's
And I'm like, what?
I
There you go.
I didn't know. I was saying to her, who's actually comping that CG then when it comes in? She's like, no.
I think that's the thing. I might have to
more
nobble
work
the machine every now and then.
Just,
I get to keep my place by standing in the company.
Exactly.
I'm going to lose
Kaylee
it.
will be dishing shots out to you, won't she? And she will be insisting that you name them correctly, Jason. You have to stick to the very strict naming convention.
Yes, you do. Star.
Brilliant.
But yeah, I mean, when I asked you why, you sort of found, just conforming it was much more sort of user friendly, or
it was really user friendly, and within an hour, I think we had the beta, and we opened it up and had an EDL, had pulled in all the footage, and it conformed it within an hour. And that was without there were no tutorials out there then, so it was just doing it from scratch.
Yeah. No, that's just great. Yeah, it's a great testament.
So we have gone through 12 years.
That's 12 years.
And things.
Independent.
So what, if you will have to do this again, what would you do differently, or what would you suggest people that are thinking of?
Not go to that pub around the corner. Yeah.
Well, I think there's definitely a lot of people doing it out there these days. You know, as I think we said earlier, I mean, when we did it 12 years ago, there wasn't a precedent of that. And I mean, people were saying you're mad. And these days,
I think
no one says you're mad. Everyone's like, go for it, good on you.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's really great to see lots of other sort of small companies setting up. And, you know, so they've probably got a different sort of initial startup model to what we had back then. But I think if we were doing it today, we would be able to spend, we would actually get more for our money in terms of kit.
I don't think we'd put all our eggs in one basket to spend.
I think we
you know, I think
vary it up.
I think when we set it up, we probably spent 80% of our budget on hardware, which you know is a really scary scary prospect. That, you know, if something goes wrong, everything's tied up in that machine. So I guess, if you know, cutting to the chase, if we were to do it again, we would probably base it around a Nuke workflow, I'd say.
All right.
And see where it went from there. I mean, we might get other bits of kit to help out, that kind of thing, but it seems like it's a great training ground for people. And again, you know, it's when you're setting up a company, you're looking for talented people to work within that company.
Yep.
And if you have software out there that's available to people to use, to learn, and to cut their teeth on, you've got a far bigger choice of talent to pull from, to create your company about. And you know, I have to stress, the company is all about the people that works there. It's not about your kit or anything like that. It's all about the people and finding the right people to run the company. But you still need the right creative people, and you need people with, you know, skills on a piece of equipment. And so if you have something there that's easily accessible to people, you just have more choice, really. So you can create a better company, I think, around that kind of thing.
I mean, one thing I wanted to add was, you know, we set up in 2003, and you know, I don't know, a few years later, maybe 5 years later or whatever it was, there was a massive global crisis, and you know, I mean, there were quite a few companies, as everyone knows, did shut down around that time, and it was quite a scary time for a lot of people, and we've all seen post houses come and go. So I think use the wave of setting up, the excitement, and then you do need to kind of get a bit sensible and try and save some pennies, and you know, you don't know what's around the corner, I suppose. So
save for a rainy day.
I think it is good thing to just have in the back of your mind.
But saying that, it is something that I think is quite incredible about you guys, and I have visited you for the last 5 years. I have come and worked with you guys once, and breaking your office. And
breaking our render farm.
Let's not get into that. And within that time, you have kept all your artists, or most of them. I remember most of you guys have been there for the whole time, which is a big achievement. Especially when you hear all the other companies are always swapping people and so on. When you're actually saying that when you started, it was because of your artistry that you brought clients to you, and then they have stayed with you. And throughout, now you can actually keep the new artists that are coming, like the new directors are coming through promos, that are coming with the new artists that are at the office, and kind of rolls in, which I think is a massive achievement from you guys.
I mean, we didn't plan it that way, but it just happened, and it's you know, ultimately people, you know, there's been a couple of people that have come and gone, but I think we're still friends with them all. It's you know, people need different challenges, but
I still visit a bit too much sometimes.
but
hanging
out. Like lots of people have started up as runners and moved up through the company, which is great. And
actually, there's nothing more satisfying than employing someone as a runner and then a few years later, them having their name up on film credits
Yeah,
or something
sure,
like that,
sure,
or you know,
yeah.
they're seeing their ad on TV.
Yeah.
You know, it's a great achievement for them, but it's incredibly rewarding for us as owners to see how people have flourished and grown, and that, you know, that nurturing and looking after people, and hopefully keeping people happy within their working environment. You know, as I say, I think that's what's created Finish and the success that you know it possibly could be.
Brilliant.
Or is, you know?
The other thing, I mean, it's quite democratic a lot of the time at Finish.
Okay.
Sometimes a bit too much, but we have you know, sometimes you throw it out there to everyone. What do you think? And then you do sometimes regret that.
Yeah.
But you know, we have tried to maintain that, and I think every now and then asking people. I mean, it could be as simple as what colour should we paint the wall, guys?
Right. Yeah.
And you know, that's your environment that you're coming to every day, or what picture should we have on the wall, and you know, that's probably a part of why people like it. They feel involved, and you know, it's theirs as well.
Brilliant.
So,
Yeah. All right. I mean,
Anything?
Yeah. Kaylee, is there anything you'd like to add in terms of fuels to start tomorrow? Any advice you'd want to give to anybody starting up tomorrow, maybe?
I mean, I know you can get hold of Nuke now for free to train on, but I think I wouldn't change going in as a runner and then going through that way, because you get to know the company more and you feel a much bigger part of the company, I think, and you see all of it, and then decide which way you want to go if you're not sure at that time as well.
Yeah, cool.
You get a lot of people coming in and they'll start somewhere, and that's their projection. That's where they want to go. Yeah. And quite often they end up going somewhere totally different.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And it's your perception about what the industry is, and the reality might be quite different.
Yeah. True.
And you only really know that by running around and seeing all different departments in a company.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Commercials is quite different as well, because it's very client facing. So I think actually learning in the commercials world, coming and actually working in a company is quite important, because you do need to learn that side of it,
right?
Because
there's those two elements of like the people aspect, and like the whole unicorn thing. The people who are great with like stuff, like technical stuff, and also really great with people. Do you know what I mean? And it's like it can be challenging. It can be challenging
really
as creative people.
Yeah.
That was awesome, and lots and lots of questions that came in did actually get answered really sort of like fluidly as you were going along, which was really, really, really gorgeous. But there are some that weren't. One that I'm ploughing through. I've been ploughing through these. There's one that's actually hilarious that I'm going to ask at the end that I'll keep for the end. So one for Justine. Do you find most of your jobs come from making good work, or do you have to put the word out a lot? I mean, you've really like established yourself, but like in the beginning, it was like that NHS spot changed everything. Right?
I think initially when we started up, and I think even this is irrelevant. Even if today the current sort of client base you have, you get on well with them, you know where they're working, they come in and they come in repeatedly. That agency producer that you've built a great relationship at that company might move,
right?
And then
huzzah.
then that agency might insist they work somewhere else. So I think what we learned quite early on was things change, and you really need that. That is quite difficult, keeping a track of where people are and trying to keep I suppose going for new business as well. But it's obviously easier to keep the clients you've already got happy. So
of course,
that's what.
Of course. And there was actually like that whole thing of you talked about it now, and you talked about it in rehearsals. Just touching on the whole that you guys survived, like you've completely survived through what was a really really difficult time.
Yeah.
I mean, but especially in our industry, it was really tough. What were you so grateful that you did pre that, so that you sort of survived through that whole?
Well, didn't balloon.
You didn't get that sofa.
No,
we didn't get that sofa.
Yeah, we didn't get that sofa.
I mean, you know, the biggest expense, I suppose, of any company is the payroll. So I suppose because we had a minimal payroll, we didn't have too much concern. And I suppose
we didn't. There was no redundancies or anything like that.
Yeah,
and
I think
you know, I know so many.
I mean,
other
that's major. That is major. Like that's really good.
We didn't make anyone.
I mean,
redundant
I think our overheads generally were quite low, so we could, you know, we basically could accommodate the sort of slashing of budgets that's happened around that time and still make a living, basically, because we just didn't have a big machine to fulfill.
Right.
So I guess that's sort of why.
Yeah. So, Jason, there's quite a few little ones here, but there's one here that I know you're going to love. So someone at the beginning was like, please talk about how you determine the value of a job, hourly, monthly amount of VFX, like so your rates. It's always a hard topic, but I knew when I saw it came in, I was like, I'm going to ask Jason that one.
I suppose you have to look at on a job by job basis, and you weigh up. I mean, first of all, you look and see exactly what work you need to do within the commercial, what the VFX are. You kind of time it out and give yourself a schedule. This is how long we've got to do the work. This is how much work we've got to do. This is how many people we might need to get working on that job. And then you create a budget, you put in a price to do it, and they turn around generally and say, well, we have this much money. And then I suppose it comes down to a certain amount of negotiation, and there generally is a little bit of negotiation, but it's kind of how much you want to do that job.
Right. And have you ever I'm sorry to ask you, have you turned down jobs?
We've certainly, I mean, we've had jobs where the demands of the job were such that the people in the company would be run ragged doing the job.
And your culture's not.
And it was just like, there's, I think, first and foremost, the company is about the people there. And if you're abusing the company, you're abusing your people, you're effectively, shooting your own company in the foot, so to speak. So we certainly have turned work down because, we respect our employees too much.
Yeah.
But
I've actually heard that from other smaller companies as well. Yeah. I've heard that chime through, and it's really it's really beautiful thing that's what it is, because it is. It's like, and one of the questions was, about like how do you keeping that strong sense of teamwork at Finish. I mean, someone actually is like, I'm going to leave and come to London and work at Finish.
But like always looking for new cops.
Right. But yeah, it's I mean, I've known you for donkey's years, and like there's just such a nice vibe in that in your studio.
I think, as we sort of said before, we do try and involve people in decisions. Yeah. And
I think that's the most important. It's the decision is about the people that work there and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there are financial considerations to make, but it's all about your people.
Right.
Really.
But it is. It's really important.
I think the thing is it's I don't know how to say this, but there's always in all creative environments, there's always, the push there's always a little bit friction, of friction thing, but I think it's really good if you can have that and come out the other side and go, but we're still friends.
Yeah.
So I think it's sort of, it's nice if people can be honest about how they feel and not then be shot down for that. Mm-hmm. So I think that's, I don't know, Kaylee, what do you think?
Yeah.
We just have a bit of a laugh at times.
But also the fact that you've been like nurtured up. I mean, that
Finish was the first company that I worked for, and I don't think I would.
She will never leave. She will never leave. But you feel that sense of sort of being part of that
it's
whole
like being,
thing.
it's like everyone's friends. It's
Yeah.
just a really good
It's that whole
atmosphere.
thing of like a family sort of
Yeah.
situation, and with that there's elements of dysfunction and elements of real beauty, right?
I think that'd be fair to say.
Right.
But in a good way. Yeah.
In a really good
Yeah,
way. No,
yeah.
yeah, for sure. So I'm going to ask this question. This one actually, I've popped it in for Kaylee. I mean, I've got some questions, but I don't know whether we're going to have time. How does the workflow differ between CG and Nuke to CG and Flame? Hashtag TF sessions. That one's for Kaylee. That's come to you, lady.
I think the workflow, Nuke works really well with CG, and so the workflow, especially with this project we're doing at the moment, which is CGI heavy, it's been quite an easy workflow to do, and I can set stuff up in advance for when we're dropping in the CG, and it works. I mean, I don't know what to say about the flame side.
I suppose.
I mean, you know,
from a flame side,
flame,
they don't particularly talk to each other, so you have to force them to talk. So, you can't pull up in setups or anything. You can only really take image sequences from Nuke into Flame, and so there's very little cross-pollination between Flame and Nuke. But CG and Flame, there is a little bit, but it's not as at the moment it's not as well thought out and connected as Nuke and CG stuff.
I hope that answered.
I mean, I go. It's funny. I go down into the CG department quite often and have a look, and I've noticed more often than not they're actually working in Nuke rather than in. Obviously, they're doing their work in Houdini or Softimar or Maya or whatever they're using. Sorry, whatever they're using. But so often I'm down there and I see them actually working in Nuke rather than in the 3D software. And it's probably a testament to the internet interconnectivity between the two software.
Yeah. Also, I was going to ask you, where's your go-to? Because you did a lot of training online, like because when we met. When did we meet? At the beginning of this month, and you were saying about the training online. Like, where's your go-to place for that? Do you have a specific place that you go to?
No. There was CMI VFX. That one I've used that a few times. More recently, I've been using the Foundry. For more specific things. I think there was a turning point when I understood like pre-mults and alphas and getting my head around that, and as soon as that happened, I think the progression has just gone a lot quicker, a lot faster.
No, that's really cool. That is really cool. So I'm gonna end with one question to all of you. So and it's come up, I hear it all the time when I'm out and about. Where do you see the industry being in the next 5 to 10 years' time? Where do you see VFX, your line of work, being?
The crystal ball.
Right, the crystal ball. I mean, obviously, there's going to be the whole thing with the tightness on budgets and and we know all of that.
I think there's. I mean, I think what slightly just going back. I mean, the move to data a few years back happened like that, which was, quite a massive change. So in terms of that side of it, I don't think there's anything major, but I think, there's obviously a lot of talk of different formats like 4K and 610,
8K,
a million K.
It's like a million K, right?
To virtual reality, and, so there's a lot of people excited about virtual reality at the moment, and a lot of VFX companies have got departments up and running already, and are shooting stuff. So I think, whether that's, that's obviously games. I think that's going to be a massive part of the gaming industry. In terms of commercials, I'm not sure, but in terms of all sorts of marketing of all sorts of products. I think that might be quite big, and that would filter into probably some of the work we would do.
I think we're able to be more creative. I think there's there's a lot more post companies actually being involved in productions and actually doing productions now than there ever has been. And again, I hate to come back to the budget money thing, but I think agencies will look sometimes and go, well, we've got clearly talented creative people here. Do we need to go through the regular channels? Or and you look at some of the big companies, they've got big production companies that are billing more money than the other production companies, the most successful production companies in London. So I think that's definitely going to happen. People, whether people still want to work for big companies, seem to be getting even bigger, and the larger companies are being run by bigger companies. Somewhat removed from the day-to-day job that they're doing. What effect that's going to have on the industry, I don't really know. But I mean, hopefully, it will be good. But I think when you have financiers running companies, is never a good thing. Personally, but I would like to think that there's some integrity of people wanting to work with smaller companies still, and maintain that. I'd like to see that.
And I mean, do you have any thoughts and feelings on it at all?
I'm not really sure.
It's cool. It's cool.
Katie's just like, give me more Nuke.
Give me more.
Keep working,
That's why we can totes do that.
Yeah.
So. And just there was just two fun questions that I do have to ask, because I'm sure they'll be upset if I don't. Someone's just put Kaylee, who has the best tattoos at Finish. I was spying them from over there. I was like, that's so badass.
Someone else at Finish might have an issue with that.
Really? They haven't seen Justine's tattoos.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Jason, what's your favourite whiskey?
Oh.
I don't know if this is an in-joke and someone that you know.
No, I don't really drink that much whiskey.
No.
But I do have a bottle of Delilah whiskey, and my daughter's called Delilah, which
nice.
I haven't actually opened. I've got one at work that I haven't opened. But yeah, I'm not a massive whiskey.
Okay. I wasn't sure whether this is. I'll show you the person afterwards, just in case it is like an inside joke.
Right. Okay.
The last one that we do have to end on, which I actually said as a joke in rehearsal.
Yeah.
Justine, where did you get your necklace? It wasn't me. Someone else has asked it right at the beginning. I showed Sophia.
I did see you giggling. And
I was just like, that's awesome. That is brilliant.
Oh, well, my friend Rosie's going to be very pleased, because it's actually a lovely Tatty Divine piece.
Can be bought online.
Can be bought online at tattydivine.com, I guess. So yeah, well, that's really sweet.
I honestly, I was just like, that is so funny. That is so funny, because that was our joke question. Oh my God! Right. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for coming over and doing this. That was really awesome. Fun. And there's some really exciting times ahead for you guys, and I just, I'm just stoked. So, round of applause for our lovely guests. Thank you. And this will be up.
Team Foundry.
Yeah, this will be up online as well. Hi, sorry, I never look. Never look in the cameras. I'm like, where I've taken my glasses off. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you found that fun as well, and informative.